It's the best time of year. It's the time to figure out which of our prospects might win something. We're going to talk about prospects today on Locked On Los Angeles Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, Kings fans. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making today's show your first listen of the day, or your first listen of, this moment in time when you opened up YouTube or your podcast app or whatever and decided, hey, let's listen to a podcast. My name is Sarah Avampato, host of this show, and as always, super excited to be here with you to talk all about the Los Angeles Kings and one of my favorite topics, which is prospects. You got to love the kids, got to look forward to the future. And for the most part, for the past couple years for the Kings, looking forward to the prospects is kind of all we've had to look forward to. So, it's cool that we have so much going on at the NHL and the AHL level, but there are still a lot of really promising players in the juniors and in college and so forth that we should be keeping track of. And of course, as all seasons are starting to wind down, some players, if you are paying attention to the Reign, you've already seen some new faces showing up as their seasons end in Europe or college or wherever. And we may see a few more of those, who knows, as time goes by. So I figured, with a little bit of time before the Kings go back into action for their next game, that we'd spend a little bit of time looking at our prospects and catching up on them to see exactly how they're doing, where they're at, who is close to joining, or who is already here with the Reign as we welcome in some new kids. So we're going to start with college and then go from there. And we're going to start with our oldest college prospect, which is David Renick. He was a 2018 draft pick, a fifth rounder. He is a goaltender, or was a goaltender for St. Cloud State University. Was able to go back for his fifth year this past year. COVID really sort of extended a lot of people's eligibility. And so he was able to stay and do one more year of his college career. He did sign his deal as soon as his college season was up. I know that there's been kind of a lot of speculation as to whether Renick would sign, if the Kings would even offer him a contract, what was their plan for him, given how many goalies we have in the system. But they did sign him. His 1-year ELC kicks in next year. ELCs for like college kids, your standard ELC is 3 years long, but college kids, you'll see a lot of 1 or 2 year deals, and that has a lot to do with how old they are when they sign. He's a little older, so he gets a 1-year deal. Right now, he is with the Ontario Reign on an ATO, so amateur tryout agreement. He can get into games if they want him to. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But usually when these guys do that, especially for goaltenders, they're just kind of hanging out, getting to see what the pro life is like, getting to know their teammates. But who knows? We might see him on the bench. You'll never know. He had a fantastic career with St. Cloud. This season, he was 16, 11, and 4, 2.26 goals against average, 0.914 save percentage, 3 shutouts. St. Cloud earned the number 4 seed in their conference tournament. They made it into the NCAA tournament, but did not obviously make it further in the tournament. St. Cloud at times, particularly in his first year, has been an absolutely dominant team. There was one year where I feel like their losses were single digits and he was the netminder. So their program has gone kind of up and down, but he has been largely the man between the pipes for them. He missed some time earlier this season with an illness that was not COVID related, but did miss some time at the end of the season. And he leaves St. Cloud as the most decorated goalie in program history. His overall record, 82, 44, and 13, 2.4 goals against average, 0.914 save percentage, and 14 shutouts. Among goalies for St. Cloud, he is first in games played, first in wins, first in shutouts, second in number of saves, 4th in goals against average, 9th in save percentage, and he earned all NCHC honors 3 times in his career. So quite a dedicated career, or a decorated career for a goalie in a program that has historically been a very strong college program. So David Renick, you'll see him around. Like I said, I'm curious to see what will happen with him. There were, like I said, those kind of thoughts that maybe he wouldn't sign, or maybe, obviously more that the Kings wouldn't sign him. But, it tells me that they want more goalies in their pipeline, and you can never have too many goalies. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, whatever. But looking at the picture for the Kings, they have Matt Villalta, they have Jacob Ingham, they have Lucas Parikh. I feel like there's other guys floating around. Garrett Sparks, obviously, in the AHL. But yeah, can't ever have too many goalies. So David Renick, we'll see him for the Reign or an ECHL team next season. Andre Lee is another face you may be seeing around the Ontario Reign. He is a big boy. He is 6'5". He's a Swedish forward, kind of power forward model. He's a 7th round pick from 2019. Just finished up his 3rd season with Umass Lowell. He had 28 points in 34 games, 16 goals, 12 assists. Overall, 64 points in 87 career NCAA games. He also signed his contract whenever Umass Lowell got bounced from the tournament. His ELC is 2 years and it kicks in next year. Right now, he is with the Reign, again, on an amateur tryout agreement, and has gotten into 2 games and feels like he'll probably just be there. Like I said, he is a big kid, and as he gets more comfortable, I think he, 7th rounders, you never really expect a whole bunch from them. A lot of them don't pan out, but he could be a pretty nice option, particularly knowing that he brings that sort of size and physicality that the teams are always looking for. Another player with UMass Lowell, Ben Meehan, 5th round pick in 2020. He's a defenseman. This was his 2nd year in the NCAA. He went 14 points in 33 games and scored his first goal this season. So he is quite a ways off from really being fully baked enough to turn pro. Just, again, his 2nd year. And I feel like last year was a wash for everybody. No one got the experience or the games or whatever that they maybe wanted to have gotten because of seasons being shortened with COVID and all that stuff. So Ben Meehan returning to UMass Lowell next year. Alex Laferriere, not to be confused with the other Alex Lafreniere, who was drafted, totally different guy. 2020 3rd round pick. He's a 6-foot right wing player, went to Harvard. Obviously supposed to start his college career last season. Harvard didn't play, so he actually went back to the USHL for another season to continue playing there. This year, 31 points in 34 games, 14 goals, 17 assists. He was 4th on his team in scoring. Harvard was a team that I feel like a lot of people thought pretty highly of, and he in a class of a bunch of other very young players, a bunch of other guys just out of the USHL, I think were really helping drive that team forward. So he is obviously returning to Harvard next season for his 2nd college season. We're going to talk about the college prospect that I know you all actually want to hear about, and that is Brock Faber. We're going to talk about him coming up right after this. But before we do that, let's talk all about HelloFresh, because if you're me, you are someone who maybe doesn't want to spend a whole ton of time in the kitchen. You're not great at meal planning. You look at your refrigerator and you're like, I have 7 different things, but I don't know how to turn them into something useful. And HelloFresh solves that problem, because HelloFresh does all the planning for you. What happens when you order from HelloFresh? They literally send you a bag, and in the bag is a bunch of food products. And there's also a handy dandy, need to get my prop, recipe card that tells you what to do with all those handy dandy ingredients they give you. They provide pretty much everything. The only thing that they don't provide is butter. You should have your own butter. Even if you hate cooking, you should have your own butter. They give you everything that you need to make tasty meals. They give you step-by-step instructions. There's even pictures on the instructions. So if you're a visual learner, HelloFresh gives you all the tools that you need to be able to create healthy, very just fun, delicious recipes, all from HelloFresh, which is America's #1 meal kit. You can pick from a ton of different weekly options. You can tell them, I don't like fish, or I really don't want things that have tomatoes. And of course, you can skip weeks when you need to. You can change delivery dates, and you can always be in control of what you're receiving. So If you're like me and you want to simplify your life in the kitchen, go and check out HelloFresh. You don't have to make any decisions. You look at pictures and then you click, I want that one. And then it comes to you with a bag full of ingredients. So go to HelloFresh.com and check it out. HelloFresh is, of course, a proud partner of the Los Angeles Kings and fueling hockey fans everywhere. Go to HelloFresh.com/LockedKings16 and use code LockedKings16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/LockedKings16 and use the code LockedKings16 to get all of your wonderful prizes. HelloFresh is, of course, America's #1 meal kit. Now, the player we've all been wanting to hear more about, the player that we are most curious about, is Brock Faber. And I'll give you spoilers for later in the week. I sat down and talked with a handful of people, including Erica Ayala, who is our Locked on Kraken host, but who is also going to be in Boston covering the Frozen Four coming up. And so I sat down with Erica and a few other special guests to talk about Minnesota's matchup with Minnesota State. So we have a little bit of cool NCAA Frozen Four content coming up for you later on this week, where we'll talk a lot more about Brock Faber. We'll talk a lot more about the Golden Gophers' chances at winning the whole thing. But Brock Faber he's great. We love him. So definitely make sure that you keep listening to Locked on Kings this week for that very special Frozen Four special episode. Brock Faber, if you've forgotten who he is somehow, 2020 second round draft pick. Kings traded up to get him. Really excited about him. 31 points or 31 games, 14 points, 2 goals, 12 assists. Was a selection for the men's U.S. Olympics team because obviously the NHL didn't go. Brock Faber at times played the most minutes on defense of this team that had a collection of young players and pros, and Brock Faber was leading that defense. We've talked about on this show numerous times how it sure would have been neat if we had Brock Faber now, given that everyone on our defense is hurt. Brock Faber, I think everyone generally expects him to turn pro at the end of this season, whenever his college season ends. Things could change. I feel like sometimes, especially knowing that he's in the Frozen Four, if they don't win, sometimes guys want to go back. Sometimes the guys get that close to winning it all, and they're like, I need to go back and finish the deal for my team. So sometimes you'll see that. Mikey Anderson, I feel like, kept going, went back to college to win it all. So it remains to be seen what is going to happen with Brock Faber, but I feel like everyone expects him to sign when he's done, which will be soon. I think that, a lot of times Kings fans were sort of hoping that the Golden Gophers wouldn't go very far, that the tournament would have been over, that we could have signed him already and he could be part of the system. But realistically, we're going to have to wait. And if anything, we may see him kind of on these deals like these other players of signing an ATO and then the ELC kicks in next year. I don't think the Kings are going to want to burn a year of his contract for just a couple of games. They're going to want to let him get acclimated to the pro life. But it would be kind of like what happened with Alex Turcotte. Obviously, COVID derailed all of that. But the plan for him was when his college season was done, he signed that ATO deal. He would have gotten in all these games with the rain. And then literally 2 days later, COVID killed everything. So hopefully Brock Faber, whatever happens with him, has a lot more favorable outcome to the beginning of his pro career. But like I said, we're going to talk a lot more about Brock Faber specifically and the Frozen Four coming up later this week. So make sure you stick around for that. Now, there's one other prospect who was a college prospect. That's Braden Doyle. He's a 2019 sixth round pick. He's a defenseman, and he started at Boston University this year after 2 years in the USHL and decided maybe it wasn't for him. He played 8 games, had 1 assist. BU, I feel like, especially when you're going to these NCAA teams that are stacked, especially with established rosters and stuff, sometimes it's hard to crack through, or you realize, oh, you know what, I wasn't quite ready. A lot of times you'll see guys go back to the USHL or they'll go back to wherever they came from that they're allowed to return to. So Braden Doyle, after 8 games with Boston, left for the BCHL, which is obviously British Columbia. It's recognized as amateur hockey. It's junior A. So players do retain their NCAA eligibility. So he should be able to go back to Boston if he wants to do that. Sometimes guys transition entirely and then suddenly they're like, oh, I'm in the OHL now. But Doyle made that choice to go back. He kind of dominated with his team, 27 points in 27 games, just 1 assist over 4 playoff games, but his team is currently holding a 3-1 series lead. So, they should get some more games, get some more experience. So overall, like, not a bad choice for Braden Doyle. And, I obviously don't know him. I don't know what his reasons were, but usually it's because guys recognized like they're not going to get the ice time that they need to continue developing, to become a better player, to, really up their game. And so sometimes they recognize that and they go, I got to go back a level. So Braden Doyle spent the season with the BCHL and put up a pretty solid amount of points. We're going to turn to the OHL now and start with Francesco Pinelli. If you missed it earlier in like February-ish, I did an interview with all about Francesco Pinelli with one of the Kitchener Rangers. What do you call them? Play-by-play guys. Covers them on the radio, announces games. But we talked all about Pinelli and a little bit about the OHL in general and what that picture looks like this year. Pinelli, obviously, second round 2021 draft pick. He is the captain of the Kitchener Rangers, who are kind of rebuilding this season. They could still sneak into a playoff spot. They're 7th in the Western Conference, and there's 1 spot left up for grabs for a playoff spot. All the other spots are clinched already. So there's 1 spot, and it's kind of down between them, the Erie Otters, and the Sarnia Sting. So it's possible that Kitchener could go and get into the playoffs, even though no one really expected them to. In his role, 57 points in 51 games, 21 goals, 36 assists. He is 3rd on his team in scoring. And like I said, captain of the team. So a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. And he has grown a lot this year as both a player and a leader. And I think has been a great experience for him, even if, the season has been frustrating for him and for Kitchener. They haven't quite, succeeded the way they wanted to, but a good learning and growing experience for him. And, hopefully next year, bigger and better things for Pinelli. And then, of course, Brent Clark. We'll talk about Brandt Clarke coming up in just a second, because I know he's the other guy that everyone was like, can he join the team now? Can Brandt Clarke come to the NHL? Can you just show up now? We'll talk about Brandt Clarke coming up next. But before we do that, let's talk sun, because look, it's sunny outside. I feel like, especially if you are listening to this from great sunny Southern California, you know the importance of protecting your eyes, and you also know the importance of not paying a gajillion dollars for them. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for just a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you're not going to find anywhere else is Shady Rays' Crazy Protection Program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They'll send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. That is amazing. I'm a person who loses things all the time for no apparent reason. I love this. I love knowing that, if I do something dumb, I can't wear sunglasses, obviously, but if I did, this would be great. But oops, I left them on the bus. Oops, I drove over them. Shady Rays has you covered. So they'll send you a brand new pair if you lose them. Give them a try. And if you don't love them, you will pay nothing. It is simple as that. Plus, Shady Rays is doing a lot to help out the world, because 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays. Exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com and use code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That is code LOCKEDON for the best deals of the season. 50% off 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses. They are backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. That is shadyrays.com. Code locked on. And if you're hanging out in the sun and you're just relaxing, maybe you're spending a nice day at the beach, it's almost beach season, you probably also want some snacks, and that is where Built Bar comes in. They are super easy to just stick in your little tote bag. If you're a person who carries a purse, stick in your little purse, your little messenger bag, and you've got snacks for you. And best thing is that they're healthy for you. They are full of protein. They are delicious. They taste like candy bars, but they are having like all the good macro things. If you're one of those health people who understands what macros are, you can go check them out and see exactly how a Built Bar is going to fit into your diet. They are having like all sorts of delicious flavors, including the cinnamon churro flavor. That is part of the Built Puff, which is a protein infused marshmallow. You can get coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. There's basically all, like, if you buy a Built Bar, you end up getting on their like text list, and every so often you get a text that's like, alert, like super cool flavor just released. So they're always coming up with new flavors, and again, they're always good for you. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. So Brent Clark, as much as we talked about Brock Faber potentially like signing his pro deal, joining early because my goodness, this team needs help on the blue line. Brandt Clark also sort of came up in conversations, because at one point Brandt Clark was one of the only, there were like 3 defensemen under contract in the NHL, like with an NHL deal after basically everyone got hurt. And one was like Helge Grans. The other was, I think, like Marcus Phillips, who we traded, and Brandt Clark, whose contract slides because it hasn't started yet, because he obviously isn't playing here. But, so there was some chatter about like, hey, so what if, could we just like lure Brandt Clark over from the OHL? Could we just have him? Obviously, that didn't happen, and that's good. We don't want to rush him. There's no point in rushing him. He is obviously our first-round pick from 2021. He leads the Barrie Colts in points, 57 points in 52 games. And in the OHL overall, he is 4th in points from defensemen, and he has several games in hand on the rest of them. Some of those guys have played 60, 62 games. He has only played 52. Barrie struggled at the start of the season, especially with goaltending, and so it wasn't really sure, what way the wins were trending for the Barrie Colts. But right now they are 3rd in the Central Division, so they'll get at least a playoff run. So Brandt Clark has a lot more hockey ahead of him. Another player in juniors, Martin Chromiak, 5th round pick from 2020. He is what a lot of people were kind of looking at as a steal in the draft for the Kings, because he is a guy who has performed at every level he's gotten to. Once he figures it out, he's off to the races. This is his 2nd year in juniors. Last year, he actually played overseas in Slovakia because of COVID and everything. He played with the men's league, and he also got into a couple of AHL games as well. This year, he has 76 points in 54 games, 38 goals and 38 assists. And he's not even leading his team in points. He is 4th on his team in points. It helps that he plays on a line with Shane Wright, who is one of the top draft prospects this year, exceptional talent, and just a great opportunity for Cromiak really as well to up his game and to get to play with one of the best players in the OHL. His team is currently 2nd in the East Division. They're definitely poised for a long playoff run of their own. So Martin Chromiak's going to have quite some time to hone his game as he continues in juniors. All of those guys, Pinelli, Clark, Cromiak, would be able to join the Reign on those ATO deals when their seasons are done. And you do see that a lot of guys. Jared Anderson-Dolan, for example, has got into some games in the AHL before, he actually officially began his pro career, because he would come down when his WHL season was over, play some games. Awesome, cool. So all of those guys, if their teams get knocked out of the playoffs, if the Kings want and they want, they could come down and hang out with the Reign. And even if they don't get into games, they are getting the experience of practices and of being around professionals and seeing how that whole world works. So hopefully, all of them have nice long playoff runs, and one of those 3 guys at the end of the season lifts the Memorial Cup. But great experiences for all 3 of them. We also, to close things out, have a whole bunch of prospects in Finland. I feel like I didn't realize that we have 5 prospects, Finnish prospects, playing in the Liiga over there. Most of them obviously still there. their seasons are all over. None of our prospects made it into the playoffs or are still in the playoffs. And a couple of them have joined the Reign. The biggest one, both literally and figuratively, is Samuel Helenius, who is, again, a big boy, 6'6". He is a center. He has been playing with the Reign. He finished his season in the Liiga. Obviously not great in terms of points production as a young player, just jumping up into that league. He had a not great season, but no big deal. It's fine. We didn't get him for like the fact that he scores 100 goals or anything like that. But he is with the Reign right now. 3 games in. He was one of those players who it's kind of most frustrating that we saw the World Juniors come to an end early, because he was off to a really great start in World Juniors, 4 points in 2 games. They have rescheduled the thing to go over the summer, so hopefully he'll get another crack at it with them, with Team Finland, to see what they can do. But he is getting a taste of the pro experience, getting thrown right into games with the Reign, mostly in like a 4th line role. I think he's actually played with Andre Lille a little bit, so 2 big boys back there on the back end. But he is over here in the United States, as well as Kim Nu Sienen. He is a 2019 4th round pick, 21 years old, undersized defenseman. He's listed at 5'9", so take that for what it's worth. He finished up his season 14 points in 35 games with Kalpa in the Liiga, and is making his way over to the Reign. He hasn't gotten into a game yet. I think he might have just arrived recently, so hasn't dressed yet, but he is over here as well, experiencing the North American way of life. The other guy is Casper Simontovall, Juho Markkinen, who actually has been playing in the Swiss League this season, and Atu Jamsen, all of them staying over in Finland for right now. But Helenius and Kim Nu Sienen all over here hanging out with the Reign. So that's kind of our look at prospects. There's also 2 KHL guys, Bulat Shafgullin and Kirill Kirsanov. It's the KHL. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with any of them? But they also exist. So that's sort of our look at prospects. Like I said, later this week, we talked with Erica Ayala and some other special guests all about the Frozen Four. So that episode is coming up this week. We also, of course, will keep up with the Kings, who did not get any help from the Oilers, from the Sharks, who lost to the Oilers. So way to go, Sharks. The Kings play the Oilers coming up next, so that game is going to be, if not for all the marbles, then for a significant number of marbles. But we'll check in on that game and what to expect tomorrow here on Locked On Los Angeles Kings. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening or watching on the YouTubes. If you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at Right Said Sarah. The show is at Locked On LA Kings. So make sure you give it a follow so you never miss anything cool or funny or witty or annoying on the internet. Make sure you're subscribed to the show, hit the notification button so you never miss an episode, and tell your friends all about it, because I'm super excited to cover playoff hockey for the first time in Locked On Kings history. I've got playoff hockey to talk about this year. Fingers crossed. If not, the Reign won't disappoint me. The Reign are in. So we've definitely got AHL playoff hockey to talk about. The rest, knock on wood. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Locked On Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.